Kia whānau, it's my trusty assistant Sione and I. It's near the end of the day and I'm getting my head all in a twist, but I'm hoping that I'll be still able to scare you straight with how to do the quantitative analysis of scared straight. So here we go. To get to the scared straight quantitative data, you need to go to the Moodle book. You know all about it, whānau, the book. This time though, you are going to where I said you should not go before. You are going down into the reconviction data and the analysing the data section. If you click here and use the password police, you'll get into this page here. This is the SurveyMonkey printout of the police database of the people who have gone through Scared Straight and the people who have re-offended. Okay, we know that 114 people have gone through Scared Straight. This is pretty much the picture of them. We've got like 2/3 male, 1/3 female, and then this is the racial composition of those 114 young people. Over here we can see this is the number of young people who have re-offended, and because there's been a skip of 14, these young people have not as of yet re-offended. There's still space for them to come into the database as re-offended at this point, but as of the point of analysis, we know that 100 of the 114 have not re-offended. So we know that around 90, you'd have to figure it out, but it's 100 over 114. Whatever that figure comes to, that percentage of young people have re-offended. Okay, now, if we were to make a graph of this, what we need to do is, and actually, I will be honest, the quickest way of doing this is to actually write this into Excel yourself. But I will, just to show you how to do it, you copy. This is why it takes so much time. So copy these figures here, and copy it, Control C, go into Excel, and Control V. And the little table will come out in Excel. Now the problem with Excel, SurveyMonkey and Excel that I absolutely hate is SurveyMonkey sometimes joins cells together. It looks like a fairly good table, it looks like there's nothing wrong, but in fact this little box here, you can see it's highlighting 2 rows here. So it's taking 2 cells, and that's going to cause a lot of problems. So we need to unmerge those cells, and to do that you just have to press this merge in center here, and that will unmerge them. And you'll see how it now becomes 2 cells. We do that for all of those. Okay, now I want to make a graph out of this. So what I need to do now is shift those raw numbers, 24, to the side here. They are still really important for me at the end of the day. So I need them there all the time. Then I delete the row underneath the percentage. And I'm doing that by highlighting the row and right clicking and going down to delete. Okay, so I'm ready to make a graph. To do a graph, I select the cells I want for the graph and I insert bar graph 2D. Now I need to actually give some labeling on this graph, and I want to change the layout a little bit. I want it to have a title, and I want to sort of order things a little bit in it too. So in order to get it with a title, I've come up the top here and I've clicked on a box. It looks like it's got a title and it looks like it's got something written underneath. That's going to give me the title and the information I need. So click on the title. The title really reflects what's happening within the graph. Period in which convicted again. Reconviction occurs. Reconviction occurs. And now I'm going to have to change the Series 1 title. To do that, I right click, I go to Select Data, and I find where it says Series 1, and then I edit that, and I give it a name. And I'm going to say Scared Straight Program Participants, and that's should come out down the bottom. Okay. Now, normally I'd say you should order this so that people can see that the 12 less than 12 months is the bigger thing, but because you've got this time duration here, I would say don't do that at all. And normally I would tell you, because the general rule is you should make the graphs stretch out to 100%, because it's potentially shows areas for lying when you bring the graphs together like this, because the numbers are quite small. But we know really that we're looking at around 90% of young people did reoffend, so we are actually looking at big numbers, and they accumulate as well. So, you know, I'd be very, very cautious to not include that. So that is how you'd do a graph. Now, what you probably would like to do, I imagine, is to not have 30.00% and 00.00%. So to change those parts on your graph, come here to these cells and select them. Now, all you do to select them is click in them and bring your mouse down, then right click, then format cells, and then you change those decimal places to 0. And now you'll see that there is a change that's happened here, makes it all very easy. Now, you can then cut, or copy, I should say, copy that, and you can actually put it in a Word document. And voila. So that's how you do a graph, and you get that data from the table on the web. Now, the most important thing though with Scared Straight is not just getting those big numbers. What we really want to know is what things look like in those big numbers. Like, it's all very well saying that most people reoffended, but really, did most people reoffend? After all, we know 14 people didn't reoffend. Where did they come from? Were they predominantly one gender? Were they predominantly one race? Because that's going to tell us a lot. And we need to then do cross-tabbing to get that. Cross-tabbing means we need to look inside the boxes. So you'll find here you've got 2 cross-tabs, one for gender and one for race. We'll just look at one of those cross-tabs now. This is the race cross-tab. And we know that it's race because when we look at this row, the column up here, and we've got race here and we've got race here. So we've got the 0, 0, 0, 0, 0, 0 going down here. We know that we're comparing apples with apples here, so there's no apples who are oranges. Whereas up here, there's differences happening all the time. Now in crosstabs, you tend not to look at other demographics, you just tend to look at the questions that you're really concerned with. And we're concerned with the period of time. So what we want to know, and some of it we can get from observation, is we know that there were 7 American Indian or Alaskan natives altogether in Scared Straight. And when we look at the period of reconviction, we know that all 7 reconvicted. Okay? There were 32 Asian Pacific Islanders. 4 plus 9 equals 13. Plus that equals 24. Plus that 7, 27. So we're looking at 5 Asian Pacific Islanders didn't reoffend. But in order to get the proportions and just really see the picture, what we need to do is first look here and see if we can see drastic differences. One difference I can see is that, straight away, is that white and Caucasians, when they do reoffend, it tends to be after 2 years, whereas Hispanic Americans, and if I look at both of these columns here, Black African Americans tend to reoffend under 12 months. That's, to me, that could be quite serious. But let's look at things proportionality. Okay, proportionately. Let's look at things by turning these into percentages. So to do that, we've got to turn this into a formula. To do that, you press equals. And then you go to the cell that you're trying to see what proportion it is of Pacific Islanders and Asians as well. So we go D26. How I got that was by shifting my mouse, and it looks all funny over that cell. Then I put a little divided line, which is a slash, and I go up here and I see it's 32, but rather than selecting that cell, I write 32. That will give me the proportion. And then if I go times, using an asterisk, 100, that will give me the percentage. So I now know that 12% of Asian Pacific Islanders reoffended in less than 6 months. If I copy that and paste it underneath, I now know that 28 reoffended in the 12-month period, and I'll add those two together and find it's around 40% reoffended within 2 years, and then it looks like 75% within 2 years, and then about 80% within 3. Now I'm going to do the same with Black or African American, and I'm going to go equals 3, no, equals, shift that up to the cell, over 26, because that's the proportion. Okay, now one thing I'm going to do too, that we talked about, is I'm going to see what the difference is between them. And to do that, I'm going to go equals sum, equals, now what's the total number of American Indians and Mexicans? 7 minus sum, and I have to use a bracket here, else it ends up doing huge mistakes. And I select those cells by holding my finger on the shift key as I move down and press enter, and accepting their correction, and it comes to 0, which is what it should do, so I know that their correction was right. They were just telling me to put another bracket in, and I'll let them put another bracket in. And there you have it. So the two groups that tended to have least reoffenders afterwards, if I was to look at them, were the Asian Pacific Islanders and the white Caucasians. The groups that seemed to be less well off were, even though we got that 3 there, the Black and the Hispanic Americans, and even the Asian Pacific Islanders. I would be very cautious about reporting these stats because there's only 7 people there. Easier to read. One way to do that is to actually stop the Excel showing you heaps and heaps of decimal places, and to do that you select these cells. It just involves clicking on one cell and dragging to the end of the other, going to format cells, going to number, and then going to decimal places and taking it down to 0. And so what you see now is you've got readable numbers. Now I'd be very, very careful of reading too much into the American Indian, and these groups like Asian Pacific Islanders, these and Black African American and Hispanic American, you'll see that there's some real patterns and tendencies that these groups are actually reoffending at a different rate to another group that's there. So I'm expecting you to be able to talk about that and maybe even illustrate that in a graph. Now if you were going to illustrate it in a graph, you would need to look at this column here, which is the easy one to do it. And because of that problem with SurveyMonkey, you have to unmerge each of these cells. Okay, and you will get those error messages coming through. This will enable you to be able to copy some cells here. So I've now selected them, I'm copying them, I'm putting them back out, and now what I want to do is actually do something like total reoffending. Okay, and so I know that the total here is 7, and if I come back down to the bottom here, I know that there's 7 reoffending. Now I'm expressing caution. I would even go to the point of thinking about whether I report it or not, but you know, some researchers argue report all data, but then you would actually say in your report we need to be careful about using this. Okay, so we've got 32 here, and we know that 5 didn't reoffend, so 32 minus 5 is 27. 27 reoffended. So 32, 27. Now I can make a graph out of this. Select the whole lot, okay, and go to insert bar, 2-labeled bar, and because I've actually even selected the titles, they've come through as well. I just want to now put a good chart title on. So it's a very dense title without with a deep spelling mistake. But voila, I've now created myself a graph that actually shows me what's going on very strongly between scared straight, but is using also the raw numbers, which makes it a little bit more safer to report in a way. especially for this one here, because I can actually say there were only 7, so it's not like 100%. So that's how you do a 2-tiered graph. I'm quite pleased with that myself. I might put that on my bedroom wall to look at tonight. Okay, whānau, I've got to edit this video like crazy. I've done so many muck-ups, but I hope you've got the picture, and we will cover this in class as well. Right, bye.